So I'll tell a bit more context of why I requested. I think I've mentioned in the email.
Mm.
Uh, I've started to come across Bhagwan's teachings probably like 2 years ago,
Right.
2.5 years ago. And with the book Be As You Are from
Yes,
David
yes,
Goggins.
yes,
Yeah, at the time, it just that I was a bit aware of Advaita teachings a bit
yes,
before that, not long ago, but quickly, I think if someone is seeking the truth, it's not
yes,
it's not going to take much time to come across Bhagwan's teachings if you really are
yes,
sincere, yes.
yes.
Uh, yes, so yeah, just like that. And I started reading the book. First time, it didn't make much sense,
Right.
obviously, but I had a sense that this is truth, what Bhagwan was saying in his words, but did not understand to the full extent.
Yes.
And at the same point, I came across your videos on the YouTube, and it was much more. I mean, your explanation is much more understandable for me. Anyways, it made so
Right.
much sense, especially on, I mean, how to practice Atma-vichara.
Yes.
Uh, yes, and just by Bhagwan's grace, at that point, I did not know whether Ramana Maharshi Foundation exists. Actually, it was not long before I discovered that this foundation exists, and yeah, here we are.
Right.
Yes. Um, so I I had like two, three, maybe just questions,
Yeah.
topics I wanted to discuss. Um, but also we can start from there, but also if you want to just say something or
No,
anything
no, no.
initially.
It's much better you start with questions.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That's good then. I'll just go through what I've written down, just like a outline of things that. Yes. Uh, Bhagwan's practice, it's Atma-vichara and
Mm.
surrender. These are the
Yes.
two main practices.
Yes.
And and I found myself um, getting more inclined towards surrender practice. I understand that from what you've been teaching and what Bhagavan is saying, these two are not completely different,
Yes.
but but one can lead to another. I understand that,
Yes.
but in a form when you're practicing, it is better to understand just okay, I'm doing this and do certain type of
Yes.
like prayers or something like that.
Yes.
Uh, so, uh, uh, so doing surrender, trying to practice surrender like every day, basically what it means, it's just giving all the, uh, basically all my will is Bhagwan's will and accepting his will as my
Yes.
will.
Yes.
Um, so some days it comes a bit easy or becomes a bit natural to do that, to accept. Like whenever a heavy thought or heavy emotion comes, I kind of feel like, okay, Bhagwan, it's troubling me, so
Yeah.
take care of it.
Yes.
It's easier to do like everyday things, the trivial things, or not trivial things, like easy things to give up
Yeah.
those to Bhagwan. But
Mm.
uh, it also seems to me that there are bigger decisions in life that
Yes.
still feels like I am taking it, no matter how much I pray to Bhagwan that I know
Yes.
that I'm not doing that, but it just
Yeah.
feels like
Yeah.
uh, certain decisions that I am doing it. Uh, and also certain decisions. The one that I'm speaking about, one is that's troubling me, is about marriage.
Yes.
Uh, and it's been a blocker to me for a very long time, whether
Yeah.
what should I do. There's like
Yeah.
lots of problems with my family about it. So
Yeah.
lot of tension between my parents and me about that.
Right.
And so that's something I need to surrender in order to progress, that I completely understand.
Yes.
And I'm also doing it, but maybe so in the practice of doing it, I'm not understanding, because every day it comes to me that I still need to take a decision whether to go ahead or not.
Yes.
I need to understand what Bhagavan's will is here. How
Okay.
can I?
Well, whatever happens is Bhagavan's will. Bhagavan says
Yeah.
in the 13th paragraph of Nāṉ Ār, he says, when one Parameshwara Shakti is driving all karyas, why should we, instead of yielding ourselves to it, be constantly thinking it's necessary to do like this, it's necessary to do like that? Surrender is giving up the thought about whether you should do this or that. That is, it is already predetermined. If you are destined to be married, there is nothing whatsoever you can do to avoid it. If you are destined not to be married, however much you want to get married, you cannot get married. So all these things are predetermined. Bhagavan made this very, very clear in the note he wrote for his mother. But in that note, the first sentence is a very important sentence for us to understand. That is, in accordance with our prārabdha, he will make us act in accordance with our prārabdha. So, the prārabdha is not what we do. The prārabdha is what we experience. It's the fruit of our past actions. So some people say, the prārabdha makes me do it. No, it's not prārabdha that makes us do it. It is Bhagavan who makes us do it in accordance with our prārabdha. What he says in Tamil is avarava prārabdha prakaram adakanavan angangeritu artavipan. That literally means according to their prārabdha, in accordance with the prārabdha of each one. That means adakanavan means he who is for that. That is referring to God or Guru, the ordainer of prārabdha. Angangirandu, being there. That implies being in each place, or more deeply in the heart of each one of us. Artavipan. Artavipan literally means he will cause to dance. He will make us act in accordance with our prārabdha. So, if it is your parents are pressing you to get married, you are hesitant about it. So, supposing it is not your prārabdha to get married, you will resist the pressure from your parents. It will just happen. Even if you think sometimes, okay, let me just agree to him, let me get married, something will come and obstruct it. So maybe you'll meet if it's an arranged marriage, you'll meet the boy, and no, that's not the person. I couldn't be married to that person. Something will happen in your mind. Bhagavan will prompt you to change your decision. So that we cannot go wrong. Whatever we decide, if it is not in accordance with prārabdha, the prārabdha will overrule it. So supposing it's not your prārabdha to get married, but after some time you think, okay, my parents want me to get married, let me just yield to their wish. That may be the wish of Bhagavan. So when you think like that, if it's not your destiny to be married, something will come and obstruct it. So we cannot make a wrong decision, because if our decision is not in accordance with prārabdha, the prārabdha will overrule it. So we cannot go wrong in these things. That is why Bhagavan says, why should we be constantly thinking it's necessary to do like this, it's necessary to do like that? Just accept there is one Parameshwara Shakti. That is the grace of Bhagavan. And Bhagavan and his grace, of course, are one and the same thing. It's not Bhagavan and his grace. He is grace itself. He is Karana Swarupa, Kripa Sarupa. So he will make things happen as they're meant to happen. When he says drives all karyas in this context means everything that is meant to happen. He doesn't mention prārabdha there, but it's in accordance with prārabdha. But he's the one who's laid down the prārabdha, of course. Everything will happen in accordance with prārabdha. In that note he wrote to his mother, after saying, in accordance with the prārabdha, he will make us act. Then he goes on to say, Endrum naduvadadu, enmuichikanum naduvadu. Whatever will never happen will not happen in spite of any amount of effort or trying. So you can, if supposing you want to get married, if it's not your prārabdha, however much you want to get married, you cannot. You can try. You have the freedom to want. You have the freedom to try, but we don't have the freedom to experience anything other than what is in prārabdha. And then the next sentence, he says the other side of the same thing. Nāṛpadu entadeseinum niladu. What is to happen will not stop in spite of any amount of obstruction. So supposing it is your destiny to get married, however much you resist it, it will happen. So you need not trouble yourself too much about this. If your inclination is not to get married, by all means, resist the pressure coming from your parents. But be aware that whatever happens is Bhagavan's will. So if in spite of your resisting, if it comes and sits on your head, as Bhagavan would say, it will be there. There was a devotee of Bhagavan called Ramasamy Pillai. He once asked Bhagavan, how to know what is prārabdha, what is not prārabdha? Then Bhagavan said, whatever Ramasamy Pillai said, if I think the context in which Ramasamy Pillai said it is, if I feel the need to do something, how to know whether that is prārabdha or not? Bhagavan said, whatever you feel inclined to do, resist, resist, resist. And what comes and sits on your head in spite of you resisting, that is prārabdha. So
Can I ask a clarifying question there? Sorry
Sorry
to interrupt.
Yes.
Can I ask a clarifying question to
Oh, certainly, yes.
You said Bhagavan said to Pillai, whatever your inclination is, resist. What does it mean? So whatever your inclination is, don't do that.
No, what he means is, supposing you're uncertain whether to do an action or not.
Okay.
Avoid doing the action.
Mm.
Avoid it, avoid it, avoid it. But if in accordance with your prārabdha, if he makes you do it, you cannot resist. So you then have to accept, yes, this is in accordance with prārabdha. So Bhagavan, what Bhagavan says in the note to his mother, after saying what is never to happen will not happen in spite of any amount of trying, what is to happen, it will not stop in spite of any amount of obstruction. Iduvetinnam, this is certain. And he concludes by saying, Ahalin monamai irake nandru. Therefore, being silent is good. Or silently being is good. What's he mean by being silent? Does it mean we should just sit like a rock and not do anything? No, because actions that we are made to do the actions that we are made to do in accordance with prārabdha, we cannot avoid those actions. What Bhagavan means by being silent is not rising as ego. Subsiding back into our being and being as we actually are. That is the only way to solve all these problems of whether you should do this or do that. How to subside? The nature of ego is to rise, stand, and flourish by attending to things other than itself. Yes. But to subside by attending to itself. So whenever the doubt whether you should continue resisting or whether you should yield to your parents' wishes, whenever that doubt arises, try to turn your attention within. Who is the one who is agitated by these thoughts, whether I should do this or whether I should do that? Yes. The more you turn your attention within, the more that I will subside. So then you will not be rising to obstruct whatever is anyway going to happen according to prārabdha.
Can I say something to
Yes,
what you said then? Yes, exactly as you said, I tried that because I'm practicing trying to subside for any like big noticeable
yes,
reactions.
yes, yes,
So, so if I try and subside in myself for that
yes.
moment, then what arises after that is no decision. Just as you said, it doesn't want anything, whether to get married or no. In that moment, it's just like whatever happens.
Exactly. Then, but whether you are in that state of subsidence or you rise trying to resist or whatever is Bhagavan's will, that is going to happen. Nothing we can do is going to change anything. That's
Mm.
why he says, Maunamai irake nandru, being silent is good. Being silent means being subsided.
Yeah.
It's not whether you get married or not, that is already predetermined. There's nothing that you can do to change what is already predetermined. The problem is because of the external pressure and internal resistance,
Mm.
you are in a state of dilemma. So lots of thoughts will be rising. Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? That is what Bhagavan said, that Parameshwara Shakti is driving all karyas. Leave it to that power.
Yeah.
So don't decide this way or that way. Just the only thing you should decide is to decide to subside.
Yes.
That is the only thing we can do. There's nothing else we can do because anything else we do, we are free to do anything. We're free to want anything and to try accordingly. But it's not going to make an iota of difference. What's
Yeah.
already predetermined, it's predetermined.
But if I just subside and just calm down, I'm a bit fearful. Not fearful. I know that for a matter that my parents are going to
Yeah.
win. It's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to give in, and it's just going to.
Your parents are not going to win unless Bhagavan gives his consent. His consent, that is either way, his decision is going to overrule. So
Mm.
even supposing you yield to your parents, then they've got to
Yes.
find a suitable boy. And if they can try and try, if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. So something or other will obstruct it. So um, it's good, that is, we have been given an intellect, a power of judgment. According to our power of judgment, what we think is good, by all means do that. But as Krishna said in the Gita, you have the right to the action, not to the fruit thereof. So if you feel for your spiritual, for following the spiritual path, it is better to remain unmarried, if that is your idea, by all
Yes.
means resist without getting much agitated about it. When somebody
Yeah.
say, okay, I'll think about it, sort of put it off or whatever. You don't want to get into a conflict with your parents. So you just say, yes, I'm thinking about it. Give me some more time. And you can be going on till you're an old lady saying, give me some more time. And so you can very gentle ways of resisting. If that is, but if it is Bhagavan's will that you should get married, at some point your resistance will break down. He
Mm.
will break it down. He will drive your mind in such a way. There's
Yes.
a term used in Sanskrit, buddhi karma anusarini. The buddhi will follow the karma. Karma there means the prārabdha. So sooner or later, if it is your prārabdha to get married, sooner or later you will yield. If it
Yeah.
is not your prārabdha to get married, even if you sometimes feel inclined, oh, for my sake of my parents, let me get married, you won't be able to yield. Something will obstruct it.
Mm. Yes. I really wish I had come across these teachings because I mean, I've done like very lots of damage in this situation.
Yeah,
Uh, my parents, you suggested how to be gentle in dealing with
yeah.
them, but it was my ego kind of caused all
I
kind
know.
of,
And also, no doubt, their ego also had a role to
yes,
play. So, I mean,
yes,
it's it's all very easy to say not to have conflict, but in life we can't always avoid conflict. Sometimes
mm,
conflict is just all these things are happening according to prārabdha. So
mm,
leave it all to Bhagavan. He has decided already. So uh, try to if you feel that the right thing to do is to resist, try to resist in the gentlest possible way.
mm. Okay.
I mean, but whatever I say, whatever you think, what is going to happen is going to happen. So you need not worry about it. That is, we need to understand Bhagavan taught us this law of karma.
Mm,
He taught this for a very good reason. That is, the law of karma is the law of karma. That is how things work. But the reason
mm,
Bhagavan emphasized this so much is he's actually if we understand what his teachings in this regard, it takes a huge burden off our shoulders because
yes.
what is going to happen is going to happen. So why should we waste our, our attention, our concern on thinking about these things? It's going to happen as it's going to happen. If you're destined to remain unmarried, you're going to remain unmarried. If you're destined to marry, it'll happen when it is due to happen. So we need not perturb our mind.
Yes.
And we can also, to the extent possible, try to avoid perturbing the surroundings, those our loved ones, our parents, or other those who are. I mean, when your parents are doing this, why they're doing this, they think it's in your best interest. You may not think it's in your best interest, but they think it's in your best interest. But it may not be in your. I mean, parents aren't always right. So uh, you follow what your heart tells you. If you're misguided in following that, Bhagavan will overrule it. So you need not you need not we need never fear that we can make a wrong decision. If the
Mm,
decision we make is not in accordance with prārabdha, it will be overruled by Bhagavan.
mm,
If it is in accordance with prārabdha, then it will happen as we think. So many times in life we make decisions and we think, because I decided that, so things went this way. But the things would have gone that way whether we decided it or not. Because, and if we did decide it, it's because Bhagavan was driving our intellect in accordance with the prārabdha. When he says Atma-vichara, of course, to dance, he's not just talking about the bodily actions. The actions of mind, speech, and body will all be in accordance with. That is, he will make us act in accordance with prārabdha. That doesn't mean that all the actions we do by mind, in speech, and body are in accordance with prārabdha, because our own will plays a part. That is, Bhagavan talks about acting under the sway of vāsanās. The vāsanās are the seeds of our will, the inclinations that give rise to the likes and dislikes, desires, and attachments, and so on. We are
mm,
constantly acting in accordance with our will. That is why in surrender, we are trying to surrender our will to his will. People say, how can I surrender to God's will when I don't know what is God's will? that's missing the point. Whatever happens is God's will. We all we have to do is to curb our likes and dislikes. That is, supposing it is your destiny to get married, supposing things turn out that you get married, as Krishna says, you have the right to the action, not to a fruit thereof. So you have every right to resist.
Yes.
But if your resisting doesn't bear fruit, if you end up getting married, that is His will. We accept it. We shouldn't be. And that's why He says you have the adhikara to act. So we should act in accordance with what we think is the right thing to do.
Yes.
But we may not be right. Supposing it's your destiny to get married, you certainly will get married. And the reason it's your destiny to get married is because that is what is good for you. Equally well, if it's your destiny not to get married, that is because that is what is good for you.
So is my resistance to getting...
I can tell you, marriage is a tough training ground in this spiritual path. Being married is not easy. There are many challenges, but it's also a very good way to curb the ego. So the majority of people and of spiritual aspirants end up getting married. That is because for most people, that is what is most favorable. But for some, it may be more favorable to remain unmarried. That's why Arthur Osborne has written in one of his books that Bhagavan was opposed to people taking sannyasa. That is a misunderstanding. Bhagavan was neither for nor against sannyasa. He was neither for nor against marriage. Because both happen in accordance with prārabdha. He is the ordainer of prārabdha. So if it's our destiny to be a sannyasi, that is, he has ordained that because that is what will be most conducive to our spiritual progress. If it's our destiny to be married and to have 10 children or live a life of total samsara, that is because that is what is most conducive to our spiritual progress. So leave it to him. He knows what is best.
Yes, I think you definitely answered my question. My question was, I understand this is all happening according to prārabdha, and I want to. I'm not saying I'm accepting his will yet.
Yeah.
I want to, but my question was, yes, how do I not obstruct by just resisting it or just doing this and that? How do I not obstruct his
You cannot
prārabdha?
obstruct. You cannot. Or
Yes,
however much you try to obstruct, the prārabdha will overrule. So
yes,
leave it to Bhagavan. Accept whatever be the outcome whatever be the outcome is according to his will. But since he has put this idea in your mind that it is better to remain unmarried, follow that as far as you reasonably can, but without much mental agitation.
yes,
That's the most important thing. A nice incident happened. That is, Bhagavan's younger brother, Chinnaswami, he was from about 1930 to 1950, he was the Savattikari of the ashram. So he controlled everything. He had his own devotion to Bhagavan, but his devotion to Bhagavan was a Bhaya Bhakti. He was terrified of Bhagavan. But but the reason that is, it's not Bhagavan who appointed him as manager of the ashram. The ashram, Bhagavan never wanted to start an ashram or anything. The ashram was started by the devotees for their own convenience, particularly the householder devotees. When they came from distant places, they wanted somewhere to stay. So the whole setup of ashram was by the devotees for the devotees. Bhagavan was least bothered by any of these things. So it was the devotees who decided Chinnaswami was the most appropriate person to be the manager. Why? because before him, that is, up to the time of Skandashram, there were no managers. They were just living in Virupaksha, going begging their food. After Bhagavan's mother came, cooking started. And once cooking started, then one thing leads to another. So anyway, from the Skandashram days, the first manager was Perumal Swami. But he became very bossy, bossing over everyone. So finally the devotees got rid of him. Then over the course of the next 10 years, there were a series of managers. Some of them, like Dandapani Swami, who was Muruganu's father-in-law, he was manager for a brief while, but he was a sannyasi, so he didn't want all this bother. So he left because he didn't want to be bothered by it. Others embezzled funds and left. So there were all sorts of problems. So finally the devotees decided the one person we can trust is Chinnaswami, because he's not going to go running away. He's not going to embezzle the funds, and he's got his own loyalty to Bhagavan, and they knew about his attachment to his mother, so he's never going to. That is, Ramanashram grew up around Bhagavan's mother's samadhi. So anyway, so Chinnaswami was running the ashram. And Chinnaswami's big ambition was to build the temple for his mother. He was very, very devoted to his mother, and he wanted to build this temple. So a lot of, building, it's a miracle how that temple was built. Because most days, at the beginning of the day, when the construction work's going on, that means so many of these silpis working on the stones, shaping the stones and doing all these things. It's a very labor-intensive work. So there were many people over the course of many years doing this work. And on most days, at the beginning of the day, there wasn't enough money to pay them. But somehow by the end of the day, there'd be just enough money and he'd be able to pay them. Whether it was paying on a coolie, a daily wage, they all work. So how that was built, it's really a miracle. But anyway, it was destined to happen, so it happened. But there's a lot of disagreement among the devotees. That is, many were saying, rather than spending all this money on building a temple, it would be better if the money was spent on purchasing land to cultivate paddy, to feed the devotees when they come. So all sorts of different, if you've got an institution, there'll be so many different minds, everyone will have their own opinion. So Chinnaswami was often under a lot of pressure. On one hand, there were all the financial pressures. There was the pressures of running the ashram. There's the pressures of all the different views of different devotees. So at times, Chinnaswami felt the pressure was too much. But he's terrified of Bhagavan, so he won't go and approach Bhagavan directly. So he will always send someone on his behalf to Bhagavan. And Bhagavan knew this, of course. So someone was sent by Chinnaswami to go and tell Bhagavan about all Chinnaswami's problems. So this person came in and listed all the problems that Chinnaswami was facing and asked for Bhagavan's advice. Chinnaswami, as a small child, his pet name in the family was Pichan. So Bhagavan often used to refer to him as Pichan. So Bhagavan, after listening to all these things, knowing this all came from Chinnaswami, he said, tell Pichan one thing. Let the temple be built or let the temple not be built. Let the ashram run on or let the ashram come to an end. None of that matters. He has only one responsibility: to keep his mind calm.
Yeah.
Keep his mind subdued. That is Bhagavan's central teaching. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. We just have to remain subsided more and more and more. And the means to subside is self-investigation and self-surrender. Atma-vichara and
Yes. Yeah. This is actually my favorite story. I knew it before in your
Yes.
book, but
But
so it
it's,
was very
I mean,
nice to.
it's a, what Bhagavan says to one person is applicable
Yes,
to all of us. So there's a
yes,
lesson there for all of us.
yes. Yeah, I mean, I think if there was no surrender, I don't know how I would have gone through any of these problems. I can see just
How we
imagine.
any of us would survive, I don't know.
I
I
don't
certainly
know.
don't know how I would have survived if it wasn't for this. And
Yes,
Bhagavan's teachings make surrender so much easier. Because when
yes,
we know everything's happening according to his will, but nothing we can do can change what is destined to happen in accordance with his will, it takes a huge burden off our shoulders, off our mind. That itself
yes,
makes surrender so much easier. We can just accept whatever is going to happen is going to happen. How
yeah.
long we're going to live, whether we're going to live in a healthy condition, unhealthy condition, whether we're going to be rich or poor, whatever it is, it's all predetermined. So let's not worry about these things. Let us focus on seeking His grace to subside more and more and more within.
And now I see I told you that I made um, damage to my parents to such, I mean, not just me, it's both parties involved,
Yes.
to such an extent that uh, there's definitely some kind of hatred in me
Mm.
towards them because the situation has worsened to quite a bit that they were threatening that they would kill themselves. I mean, all sorts of things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what you can expect, etc.,
yeah,
etc. And uh, I'm trying to like subside everything, but there's one bit of identity that is very strong in me that says whatever it says, I have to follow my heart, whether it's right or wrong. I'm not sure,
yeah,
but I'm like I want my freedom. Whether it's
yeah,
parents that is going to obstruct whoever else, I'm not
yeah.
going to agree to
Right,
them. I
right.
want my freedom, so no threats to my freedom should be made
Yes,
from anyone.
yes,
So So from so you said that yes, resist by all means, um, but in that resistance, I am also kind of harboring some kind of hatred, as an even I'm just it's overshadowing that whether the resistance is coming from truly from my heart or just to the reason that they're not listening to me, that I am right inherently, like
yeah, yeah,
oh this is what I want, but they're I'm an
yeah,
adult, I can take my decision, but Indian parents, whatever their mindset is, so
yeah, yeah. I
whatever.
know, I know, I know.
I know. So somehow in within me, subconsciously, I know I feel that they're very much in the wrong,
Mm.
and my brain can't eliminate that.
Yes,
I can sometimes be passionate about how miserable they're getting about the situation, and they're not just that. Those are not empty threats. My mother is like really going through everything, but you definitely know much more about Indian culture than I am. So how societal pressures are, if your daughter getting closer to 30 and not getting married, everyone is
yeah,
talking about that person.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And especially when you're from a small town, in my situation is my parents are more so they're not even thinking about me in this situation. They are like, how do I face so and so, my relatives or so
yeah,
and
yeah,
so.
yeah. I know, I know, I know. So it's
I
not.
tried to introduce Bhagwan's teachings to them. That
Yes,
did not work at all. Like many times I have tried
yes, yes.
to get some peace in their mind, but no.
No, no.
So, how can I think my question here is how can I?
Are they attached to any particular god or to any following any sort of path of any sort?
So, the thing is, my father is attached to Krishna. He
Right,
used to read Bhagavad Gita, but
right.
he says, but I suggested, just as you said, I suggested, I know like everyone has their own inclinations to God, and I suggested, why
Yeah,
don't you surrender to Krishna or read
yeah,
more
yeah,
those things. But my father says in his words, famously that since this problem arose, which like let's say 3 years ago, so this has been
Yeah.
going on, and he says, "I've got no faith in God anymore." That is so unfortunate. He thinks
Uh,
that way, but
yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I mean,
yeah,
I can understand how you feel, but also it's good to feel compassion for them because
yes,
when you know how Indian society is. I mean, it's not only are they putting pressure on you, there's a huge pressure on them. The
yes,
expectations of the relatives and the other community members and everything. This is just the way things are. I mean, even in the past, this would have been a problem. If
yes,
if a son wanted to remain unmarried, that would be very difficult for parents. If a daughter wants to remain unmarried, it's even more difficult because
yes,
the father has responsibility to get his daughter married. So there's so much pressure, the pressure of society, the pressure of tradition, and so many things. So this isn't just a modern phenomenon. This is an age-old phenomenon, but in a certain sense, it's heightened nowadays because society nowadays is different. Even in India,
yes,
society is so rapidly changing. I mean, I lived in India for 20 years, but it's now 30 years since I last uh, lived in India. But I can see
mm,
India has changed in so many ways. For example, the younger generation, this this cockroach movement, these are actually all good things. Young people are waking up and they're pushing against the this sort of divide and rule mentality and this very clinging to the past. And that is, society has always been changing. Society
yeah,
has never been fixed. Even, for example, the caste system in India.
yeah,
The caste system is very old, but it's been changing under so many different pressures. It became a bit more rigid, for example, when there were Muslim invasions, because the society was more under threat, so people tended to cling together. There's so many reasons for it. But if you
yes,
think of the caste system in the time of Mahābhārata, it's very different to the caste system now. Veda
mm,
Vyasa, the sage from whom all the Vedas, I mean, who wrote down all the Vedas, who wrote the Mahabharata, everything.
yeah,
Who were his parents? His father was a rishi, his mother was a fisherwoman,
ah,
Satyavati. So nowadays that would be completely, if a child is born to a Brahmin and a fisherwoman, they'll be outcast. They'll be
yes,
Malachas or Sudras or whatever. I mean, not even Sudras, they'll be completely outcast.
yeah,
But so society is always changing. Indian society became partly under the pressure of Muslim rule. Indian society became conservative, particularly under the British rule. Indian society became very conservative. But it hasn't always been like that. Society was far more fluid in the past. So
mm,
from generation to generation, societies change, circumstances change. But it's very difficult for, particularly for the older generation, to 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 adjust to all the changes, the very rapid changes in society and outlook. And for example, nowadays so many young people are going abroad. Some young people from India are going abroad. 50 years ago, when I was first in India, it was
mm,
comparatively rare for anyone to go. If someone had been abroad, they were foreign returned. It was a big deal in those days. Now it would be nothing because so many people are so. But so many ways in which society is changing nowadays because of modern communication things and everything. The society is changing much more rapidly. And for the older generation, it's a threat. For example, I've been reading a little bit about this cockroach movement because it's very interesting to me, the Indian society.
I haven't heard about it.
You haven't heard about it? Oh, that's a
I'm
big
very
thing.
distant to all the
Right,
news
right,
and
right,
everything.
right. Okay, there's been a huge youth movement in India in the last few months. That is
Okay.
the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, in some remark he made about unemployed young people, referring to them as cockroaches.
I see.
So people caught on to that and they started making memes and they started the Cockroach Janitor Party, the CJP. And it's been a huge thing. They managed to force the resignation of the union education minister.
I see.
In Modi's speech at the Independence Day, he said we've wiped out the armed Naxalites. Now we've got the Dimaji Naxals we've got to deal with. Obviously referring to this youth
Yes.
movement. So it's but one thing I read about this is many of these young people who are they're rightly angry because the society hasn't been working in their favor. So many young people they struggle to get education, and once they get education, it's a struggle to get a good job and everything. So there's so much discontent among the young people. But the parents don't understand. Many of the parents are staunch BJP supporters. So when
Yeah.
they find their children resisting that, they're not able to understand it. So but this is not a modern phenomenon. I mean, society has always been like this, generation to generation. Things, but it's only the difference nowadays is things change so rapidly.
Yes.
So we have to feel sympathy for the parents,
Yeah.
but at the same time, if you feel I mean, it's your life. You have to live the life. So you have to,
Yes.
but also but if it's Bhagavan's will that you should get married, there's nothing you can do to prevent it. That doesn't
Yes.
mean that you should yield. If you think to you it seems to be, it will be more favorable to remain unmarried, by all means, as Krishna says, you have the adhikara to karma. You have a
Mm.
adhikara to do what you think is right. But
Even if it
you,
pains them, even if see how much it's paining them, so they're trying to
well,
guilt
yeah,
me. But
this is Dharma. See the
yes,
Mahābhārata. See how many Dharma, or even the Ramayana, how many Dharma Sangatams there are, when it's just not clear.
yes,
That is, if you do this, it'll have this bad effect. If you do that, it'll have this bad effect. There's no Dharma, though there are Dharma Shastras that you say you should do this, this, this. But actually, if you read about the practical application, I mean, Mahabharata and Ramayana are about the practical application of Dharma. And
yeah.
see Bhishma, he made a
Mm.
great sacrifice for the sake of his father.
Mm.
But it ended up causing so much trouble to him and to the future generation. Ended up in a big war. So there's what is right and what is wrong is never simple. I mean, a good moral principle is ahimsa, to try to uh, not do harm. But there are many circumstances in life it's not possible. The,
Mm.
the first himsa, the first harm, is our rising as ego.
Mm.
Rising as ego is equivalent to Brahmahati. We're killing Brahman in effect. I mean, of course, Brahman is unaffected, but from our point of view, we've killed Brahman. Brahman is no longer there. that Brahman has suddenly become this small little person with all these problems and everything. So the very rising of ego is the beginning of all himsa. So it's not like the Jain monks. They wear face masks and they sweep the floor, try to avoid harming any creature. But it's not possible. We to live a life causing no harm to any creatures it's absolutely impossible. It's just the nature of this embodied existence, the nature of samsara. So sometimes we have to take a stand. If we think something is right, we have to, but if you're doing this puts a huge responsibility on your shoulders because you spoke about freedom. You value your freedom.
Yeah.
That's not wrong, but what use are you going to make of your freedom? If you have taken this decision, you then owe it to yourself and to your parents to make the best use of this freedom. And the best use of our freedom is to surrender to Bhagavan. And the most effective way to surrender completely to Bhagavan is to turn within. So all these things are connected. But that's why there's no simple thing. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. Leave it to Bhagavan. He will guide you. Trust in him.
Yes. I mean, I definitely have exhausted all things that I could do in these 3 years.
So if you, well,
But
then when there's nothing more you can do, what can you do? You can surrender to
surrender.
Bhagavan. That's all.
Yes, 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 yeah. Uh, Thank you so much, Michael. Um, should we say when do you want to end this call? So I have like a,
If you've got more questions, by all means.
I really don't want to take more
No,
time.
no, no, no. I'm happy to talk over.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um, okay. So since a month, we've been talking about since a month having this meeting. I've had some questions over this time that are pressing.
Mm.
But
Okay.
after 10 days, they've gone. They're kind of like,
Right.
so I'm just
That,
keeping editing this thing.
yeah.
Um, so all these questions, it's just really the answer is surrender and
Surrender,
self-inquiry.
surrender, and more surrender. Subside, subside, subside. That is, if you want to summarize all of Bhagavan's teachings in one word, it is subside.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's why I think I could easily understand his teachings. It doesn't take
Yeah.
much time to
Yes.
understand
Yes.
teachings, does it? Next one is just I want to touch about desires.
Yes.
Again, maybe I'm looking for your practical tips or what you've done a little bit because I know ultimately the answer is going to be surrender, uh, especially here. So I was thinking, so these any of these big desires or small desires, whatever is coming, I quickly understand that you can't fight these. These are really some really big. Some of them are really big. They're very strong.
Yes.
Um, so by being more and more aware, because I just live on my own, so I have like so much time to just look
Yeah.
inward. Not doing self-inquiry all the time. It's just to observe, kind of
Yeah.
understand. Um, so this I kind of understand when a desire is rising, like in a
Mm.
small seed form or whatever. Can see, for example, let's suppose I'll give you a real example. Like 2 months ago, I uh, I gave into my desire of a temptation of eating fish. I don't. I've given up eating all meat, but now and then I sometimes eat.
Yeah.
So eating fish, I knew that that was a bad idea. Someone had suggested that to me. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. No,
Yeah.
but I can. But obviously, I gave in. But all that time, I knew how futile it was, but still kept on doing it.
Yeah.
So And there's also like immense that just comes
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
moment
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
eating it. It's like, this is pointless. I don't know why I am
yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
So it's times like that, it sometimes feel, this is, it's not really easy. I mean, by doing self-inquiry and surrender, it's given me so much of peace and freedom that I don't
yeah,
think anything else would give. But sometimes it feels like, why can't I just be, just like a normal person
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just
Um,
have this one fish and
but
just
yeah, but the trouble is we can't be like, once we've come to Bhagavan's path, we can't be like that. Sometimes we may give in to we may allow ourselves to be swayed by certain desires, but we'll never be comfortable with that. We will always see the hollowness of these things. So yeah, but overcoming desire is it's the nature of mind or ego to have desire. We cannot conquer desire entirely without eradicating ego. But it's its very nature, as Bhagavan says, grasping form, it comes into being. Grasping form, it stands. Grasping and feeding on forms, it flourishes abundantly. Leaving form, it grasps form. If sought, it takes flight. Such is the nature of this formless demon ego. So the that word grasping, the word in Tamil is patri. It comes from the verb patru, which means um, to grasp or to cling or to be attached. The equivalent noun is also patru, which means attachment. That is the very nature of ego. So why? Because ego cannot come into being, stand, or flourish without constantly grasping forms. That means grasping things other than itself. So, so because our very survival as ego depends upon this constant grasping, we have very strong inclinations to grasp. Those in,
Yes.
to grasp what? To grasp forms or vishayas, objects, phenomena. So those inclinations are called vishaya vāsanās. So
Mm.
of course, the ego, the Vishaya Vasanas are not ego, but it is the nature of ego to have Vishaya Vasanas. And we cannot eradicate the Vishaya Vasanas entirely without eradicating the root, which is ego. So the whole spiritual path is a battle. As Bhagavan said, it's a battle going on within our own will. Bhagavan said that all these Puranic stories of the fight of good against evil, the devas against the asuras, this is all the battle that is going on in the heart of the spiritual aspirant between, on the one hand, the sat-vāsanā, and on the other hand, all the vishaya vasanas. Or if you come down a little lower, between the subha vasanas and the asubha vasanas. This is going on in the heart of any spiritual aspirant, anyone who aspires to be a better person, to live a better life, even worldly people. They're good. I mean, not not all religious people are good, and not all irreligious people are bad. There are some very good people whose
Agree.
mind are just not inclined to believing in God or whatever. But sometimes they're very good people. They want to be better people. So even within their heart, there's a struggle going on between the good inclinations and the bad inclinations. This is the nature of our life. This is the nature of what this whole. Why are we here? It's all to do with this battle between the good and evil within ourselves. We see it reflected in the world. We see so much battles between good and evil going on in the world, but ultimately they're all a reflection of what is going on within us. So this overcoming desires is not at all an easy thing. all we can do is we can, by following Bhagavan's path, we can gradually wean our mind off its desires. We can reduce the intensity, the strength of our desires, our vāsanās. We cannot destroy them entirely without destroying ego, their root. But if we don't weaken these vāsanās, weaken these desires, we're never going to be able to surrender ourselves. Because what is it that prevents us surrendering? It's because of these Vishaya vāsanās. So it is necessary to reduce the strength of the Vishaya vāsanās to a very, very great extent before we can surrender ego. So this battle within our own heart between our good inclinations and our not such good inclinations, whether you think of it in more mundane terms of subha-vāsanās and asubha-vāsanās, or in spiritual terms, the sat-vāsanā and the vishaya vāsanās, this battle has to go on.
But you said the only sadvāsanā is to turn inside, isn't it?
Sat-vāsanā is the vāsana to surrender, to turn within and to subside back into our being. So the Vishaya vāsanās can be divided into subha and asubha. Not all Vishaya vāsanās are equally bad. Some are definitely much worse than others. So they are classified as subha and asubha. But of course, it's not black. It's not a black and white thing. There's all shades of grey in between. So some vāsanās are more subha, some are more asubha. But if you have subha vāsanās, there's always possibility of more subha, more subha. Eventually, it's a battle between ultimately the only perfectly subha vāsana is the sat-vāsanā.
So the subha-vāsanās are going to create good karma.
Good karma, but also good disposition.
Yes.
The very fact that we're inclined to follow this spiritual path, that is an effect of the subha-vāsanās.
I don't understand that though. I've done terrible things.
If we have only asubha-vāsanās, we'll be very selfish, uncaring about others. We'll be thinking only about our own gratification of our own desires. We won't be. So we have to first replace the subha-vāsanās with subha-vāsanās. And that is, anyone who is genuinely following the spiritual path, they have a predominance of subha-vāsanās. It may not be recognized by the world, but for example, when we hear about the suffering in the world, like the wars that are going on, the wars in Sudan, in Gaza, in now this Iran war, this Ukraine war, and they from time immemorial there have been wars. So those sort of sufferings, the sufferings caused by poverty, in spite of a huge amount of wealth in this world, in this present day, there are so many who are still living in poverty. There's some who are not getting enough food, and they don't have access to medicines, they don't have access to clean water. In so many parts of the world, there's extreme poverty. When we see all these things, we feel pain to see all these things. That is a sign of subha-vāsanā. The people who have a predominance of asubha-vāsanās, they won't care. All I care about is, I've only got 1 billion now. I've got to reach 100 billion. And once I reach 100 billion, I've got to reach 1 trillion. They're only thinking about themselves. There are such people in the world. So it's we have to move from the asubha towards the subha and eventually towards sat. The salvation lies only in sat. Because if we just have subha-vāsanās, we'll be doing good things, we'll be kind to people, we're doing good karma. then
Yes.
the fruit of good karma, we enjoy pleasures in this world or some other world. But that's not, that's perpetuating the same thing. So even subhavasanas, we have to go beyond those to
Yeah.
the ultimate subhavasana, the ati subhavasana, which is the sat-vāsanā, which is the vasana for subsiding. That alone will lead to liberation.
Yes.
So desires is a problem for all of us. None
Yeah.
of us can claim to be desireless. None of us can claim to have conquered desire. It will be there in one form or another till the end. We just have to, we just have to try more and more to replace uh, to wean our mind off its desires, the grosser desires. But then the subtler desires are there. Even those we have to wean our mind off. And the most effective way to do so is to follow this simple path that Bhagavan has taught us, which is turning within more and more and more. That is the real surrender. Because when we turn within, we are refraining from being swayed by any of the Vishaya vasanas. Even the more subha of the Vishaya vasanas, even those we are refraining from being swayed by. We are attending only to our own being, and thereby, and our own being, that is Bhagavan. He's ever shining in our heart as our own being, as I am. So that is the real bhakti. That is the
Yeah.
real surrender.
Enough of the problems. I've talked a lot about the problems, but the answer ultimately is, of course, surrender.
Yeah,
Um, just obviously, for I think all devotees of Bhagavan, we all really love Bhagavan and have like lots of passion for his
mm,
teachings. Uh, I think one thing that inspired from seeing the work that you're doing is, and also in my experience, I've found that even the people around me, no one is interested in Bhagwan's teachings, like in the life
yeah,
that is. But if a chance comes, I'm like, without knowing, I just want to talk about Bhagavan
yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah,
talk about teachings because ultimately that's giving me
yeah,
just the
yeah.
pull, and there's nothing else I can feel that I'm drawn to more than this. I mean, there's so many things, but not more than this.
Yes, yes, yes.
So a thought came, in that case, then should I maybe do something about it? I'm not asking you to say an yes or no answer, but my question particularly here is if I want to just to do some kind of maybe something a little bit, maybe just writing what
Mm.
I feel about Bhagwan's teachings and putting it outside,
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah,
simple that. But I feel I'm very early in this path, so I might be doing like lots of mistakes, and all the things that I would be saying people would be better finding out from you or just directly from Bhagwan. So there's this a little bit of conflict I'm unaware of deciding. And recently, one of my friends said, I've sent her like some really good Bhagwan's like video and teachings of
yeah,
you. And I said, to help her particular situation in life, I
yeah,
sent her a video. And she said, oh, okay, but it just felt, she did not understand it completely.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, she thought it's such a traditional thing to say, just surrender, whatever, without
yeah,
understanding the importance. But said something to me that, if the Ramana Maharshi said something versus you said something, I would listen to you. I would be more interested to you because you've gone through like all the stages of life.
yeah,
Especially,
yeah,
I don't know what she meant. I mean, I think like I've been a bit atheistic, agnostic, and a bit more
yeah.
philosophical, and then a bit more practical in my approach. So she said, "Why don't you write about what you feel about Bhagavan or what you're
Mm.
practicing, and put it out there?" Then I would be interested
Yeah,
than understanding it from directly from traditional approaches. So yeah, What do you think about it?
Yeah, there's no harm in doing these things. Um, I mean, one thing you could do. What is your mother tongue?
Telugu.
Telugu. Okay. Well, some of Bhagavan's works he wrote in Telugu. Have you read any of the Telugu works of Bhagavan?
No.
He definitely Upadesha Saram he's done in Telugu.
Yes.
Um, Ekatma Panchakam he did in Telugu. Um, Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, there is a Telugu prose version, which I think was done by Bhagavan, but I'm not 100% sure. It is said that it was done by Bhagavan. And some references in Suri Nagama's letter seems to imply that it was done by Bhagavan. So there are things Bhagavan himself has done. I was thinking if your mother tongue was if you were, for example, if Hindi, for example, is your mother tongue, you could I could suggest to you to translate some of
Mm.
from my English translations, you could translate into Hindi. But if Telugu is there,
Yes.
but there are works that have not been I mean, there are Telugu translations. For example, there's a Telugu translation of Aksharam, like verse.
Yes.
Telugu devotees often sing that.
Yes.
How accurate that is, I don't know. I mean, Aksharam
Mm.
is a it's at the same time very simple and very difficult.
Yes.
But works like Ashtakam,
Yeah.
Navamani Malai Patikam, Ashtakam, these haven't been, these Bhagavan didn't write in Telugu. So you could try translating these and possibly have, for example, a blog and share on a blog. You could also, as your friend suggests, if you feel inclined to write about things, but even what I write, it may not all be perfect. I write according to what I understand. Was very fortunate to be with Sadhu Om, and so I had a very good opportunity to learn. And I spent nearly 50 years studying and translating Bhagavan's works. So I people find my explanations very helpful because it's based on what Bhagavan said. So if you it's not necessary that you should have such a good grasp, but according to what you understand, if you write it, share it with friends or share it on a blog or whatever, it's a very good way of keeping our mind dwelling on Bhagavan's teaching. And it helps to writing things down, helps to clarify our own understanding. Because when we try to write it, we want to write it in a way that is clear and that expresses it clearly, but it makes us think about it more deeply. So if that is something you feel inclined to do, by all means do it. You're not setting yourself up as a guru. You're trying to teach others, but you're just sharing your understanding with others. That's what I feel I'm doing. I'm just sharing what I have understood. There no doubt will be many devotees who understand these things much better than I do. And in future, there'll be many more who understand things still better. But what little I've understood, I share, and people find it useful. So if you like to share your understanding, there will be people who find it useful. And even if no one finds it useful, it's beneficial for you.
Mm. Yes. Thank you so much.